Good morning. My name is Louis Robinson. I'm living here in City in San Diego. My wife Dina and have been hunkering down in our apartment since the 2020 pandemic started. We FaceTime, we Zoom with our family and friends. Dina's writing a great Transylvanian novel. I'm also doing some writing, a sort of memoir of our life together. We get on our computers every day, we email, we catch up on the day's news. I watch some sports occasionally. We watch old movies. But one of our favorite things that we love to do is read poetry to each other. And some of our favorite poems are the prose poems of Robert Bly. Robert Bly was an American poet of the late 20th century. I believe these poems must have been written around 1970s. I'm going to read from this compilation of his works. The Morning Glory, Prose Poems, Robert Bly. When Dina and I first met in 1979, and I learned of her love of Robert Bly, I went out and at the Strand bookstore in Lower Manhattan, I managed to find these wonderful poems. This is one of my first gifts to Dina during our courtship. Anyway, let's start reading. My 3-year-old daughter brings me a gift. She comes in and lays him carefully in my hand, a caterpillar, a yellow stripe along his back, and how hairy. Hairs wave like triumphal plumes as he walks. Just behind his head, a black something slants back, like a crime, a black memory leaning toward the past. He is not as beautiful as she thinks. The hair falling over his mouth cannot completely hide his face. 2 sloping foreheads with an eye between and an obstinate jaw. Made for eating through sleeping things without pains of conscience. Now he rears, looking for another world. I marked a few nice poems here. Okay. Waterfall coming over a cliff. 800 feet up, there is water pouring out of the sky. It drops a few feet, and then the long plunge after the slanting blow off the cliff. It is a deep plunge, loveless, floating. It falls by the cliff like tufts of sleep. The long sleep the truck driver sinks into after he has driven 3 days from the coast, or the clouds that pass across the sky of a dog's eye when he dies in a room with human beings, or the glimpse the meditator has of something floating under the water, neither moving nor not moving, seeming to slow as it nears the bottom. On the rocks at Maui, the Pacific water rushes in among the brown, confident seaweed, over stones with whirlpools the shape of galaxies. A black crab climbs up a sea rock sideways, like a demon listening in Aramaic. I am not married. I have no parents. I wave my black claws and hurry over the rock. I love these with the seaweed clinging to them. They are stars. I am alone, inside myself. I love whatever is like me. I leap out of the sea. I hold fast to a rock. No night mother can pry me loose. I think my thoughts. I pray all day, and the seagrass waving is foolish. And I sway too. I am glad no cows come and eat me. I withdraw into the desert and return. I never want. I meet shining boulders. I hurry through the womb systems at night. I fail. Friends whisper to me in my dream that I have lost their friendship. I sleep next to women. I wake. A rock inlet on the Pacific. The sea boils in over underwater rocks, then swiftly pulls back among currents with different thoughts, everything sweeping and howling. Now it is suddenly clear, making holes on the rock floor clear. Thoughts hurry in again, trying to leap up the sides, the whole inlet like an eyeball. Mad sights climbing the walls. The nostrils feel the bite of the salt. The sloshing water is too wild for seaweed, but limpids understand. And it goes on for centuries, and no one gets tired of it. There is no one to get tired. The man meditating who has forgotten the name his father gave him sits silently for hours and then suddenly breaks out singing. The heart pumps, only the sea waters entering and leaving, jumping up, nearly touching the tern's foot. The jellyfish opens and closes. The mouth longs for the salt water. So beautiful. Sunday morning in Tamale Bay. He dedicated to Michael and Barbara. The blue sky suddenly gone. We are in a fog. We drift, lost, and there's a machine far away. A derrick, it is alive. It is a great blue heron. He turns his head and then walks away, like some old Hittite empire, all the brutality forgotten. Only the rare vases left, and the elegant necks of the women. Where he was, heavy bodies are floating, sea lions. We float in among them. The whisked heads peer over at us attentively, like angels called to look at a baby. They have risen from their sea mangers to peer at us. Their magi came to them every day, and they gaze at the godless in their wooden boat. After a while, the boat drifts nearer, the fogged shore. Boulders on it piled up, sea lions, hundreds of them, some on their backs playing. Then the whole shore starts to roll seaward, barking and flapping, and the heron slowly ascends, each wing as long as Holland. Standing under a cherry street at night, imagine. The cherry branches sway. They are arms that prophesy music, hands that follow the note just about to come. The clumps of blossoms look heavily down, and are women's faces, not angry with us, who forgive and return petals to the earth. And I too sway like those boughs, as if in heavy canyons, hardly making ground, moving upstream against tiny cedar twigs being turned over and over in the cloudy spring river coming down. All day I walk by the sea. I climb down the cliff at times to sit with the black mussels. Finally, I am back here in the garden, where the night air is affectionate. The stars are a transparent mountain range, and I am a human being, standing in the dark, looking at the cherry branches above him, swaying against the night sky, not far from the sea. That's very simple. Here's a nice one. Listen. A windy day at the shack. A windy day at the shack. Wind blows, water breaks over the bare lake rocks no one loves. I walk about on bare feet, several inches off the ground, and suddenly I have an impulse to kneel down, to put my knees against the earth. My thankfulness flies out over the water like fragments of lightning, or a beam broken up into sparks. All at once I understand the Virgin and her candles, and I understand the great, great body of the whale rolling in the sea with the sides glistening, and I understand why my hair is up near the clouds. I know there is another room of time, with stone walls and deep ledges and morning sunlight, where a woman with shining arms is living. Beautiful. Let's end off with this one. August rain. After a month and a half without rain at last, in late August, darkness comes at 3 in the afternoon. A cheerful thunder begins, and then the rain. I set a glass out on a table to measure the rain, and suddenly, buoyant and affectionate, go indoors to find my children. They are upstairs playing quietly alone in their doll-filled rooms, hanging pictures, thoughtfully moving the small things that make them happy from one side of the room to another. I feel triumphant, without need of money, far from the grave. I walk over the grass, watching the soaked chairs and the cool towels, and sit down on my stoop, dragging a chair out with me. The rain deepens. It rolls off the porch roof, making a great puddle near me. The bubbles slide toward the puddle edge. They become crowded, and they disappear. The black earth turns blacker. It absorbs the rain needles without a sound. The sky is low. Everything silent, as when parents are angry. What has failed and been forgiven? The leaves from last year, unable to go on, lying near the foundation. Dry under the porch. Retreat further into the shadow. They give off a faint hum, as of birds' eggs or the tail of a dog. The older we get, the more we fail, but the more we fail, the more we feel a part of the dead straw of the universe. The corners of barns with cow dung, 20 years old. The chairs fallen back on their heads in deserted houses. The belts left hanging over the chair back after the bachelor has died in the ambulance on the way to the city. These objects also belong to us. They ride us as the child holding on to the dog's fur. These appear in our dreams. They are more and more us, coming in slowly from the wainscoting. They make our trunks heavy, accumulating between trips. They lie against the ship's side and will nudge the hole open that lets the water in at last. Thank you for being with me, for a few moments to listen to these poems. Have a wonderful day. Be safe. Be safe. Take care of yourself and your family. And enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.